Well, Tommy, the scene is largely clear. You can see and hear traffic moving normally, but now you can see the makeshift memorial that has popped up. There's balloons and candles there, and over to where the gondola was last landed, there's more candles and balloons sitting there at the intersection here of Unser and Central. But as you said, Tommy, this hot air balloon ride was a gift for a woman because she said it was something that she wanted to do before she died. And those that helped pay for that gift say she was excited to take to the skies. No kids laughing at the empty playground behind Georgia O'Keeffe Elementary School on Sunday. Just the chains of the empty tetherball courts clanking in the breeze.
What a loss that this school is feeling right now. Not only the kids who are here now, but the kids that she's touched throughout her entire career in education.
Amber Howard remembers taking her kids to school here.
I knew Susan because she was the first face that you pretty much saw every time you walked into the school.
Susan Montoya was the assistant principal.
Every morning she would be at the front door holding the door open for all the kids and greeting everyone with her big sweet smile.
Now at the front door there's only a bouquet of flowers with a card. And just behind the glass in a bin labeled staff farewell gifts, a box that says Miss Montoya's farewell rocks. No doubt gifts from students for Montoya, who is set to start a new job at a different school next year because of declining enrollment at Georgia O'Keeffe.
We learned a short while ago that a hot air balloon ride was on Assistant Principal Susan Montoya's bucket list.
APS officials say it was Montoya's fellow educators that gifted her a ride for 4 people in a hot air balloon.
Albuquerque Public Schools, this loss is unprecedented. Never before have we experienced the loss of so many in one incident.
I don't know anything about the gift. I don't know anything about that. But I know that Susan, and the way that she lived her life, she would never want anyone to feel guilt over something like that.
Montoya, her husband, her 2 guests, and the pilot all died.
It's going to be felt for a while. It's going to be a strange situation for these students to have to walk back in and not have her there greeting them at the door.
A farewell gift, APS officials say, was given out of love for a respected educator.
This is a family. This school is a family. The teachers, the students, and so it's losing a family member.
And Tommy, I got a text message from somebody who works at Georgia O'Keeffe. They say Montoya went above and beyond for her students. They also say they were one of the people that helped pay for that balloon ride, and this news has absolutely crushed them.
It's hard to even imagine. And Ryan, with all of these APS connections, what else did we learn from APS brass today?
Well, Tommy, the most emotional part of the press conference earlier came when the APS police chief detailed when he learned and then shared the news with the rest of his department that one of their sergeants had died in this crash.
After receiving the call from Chief Medina yesterday, I sat back a little bit and thought, this can't be Marty. It just can't be Marty, because Marty, I just didn't think it could be him.
APS Police Chief Steve Gallegos says he remembers working with Martinez when they were both with APD. On Sunday, he recalled telling his department one of their colleagues is dead.
I rounded up our people that I could from school police, and we met at our new dispatch center. And I announced it to them because I wanted them to know before everybody else, before hearing it from somewhere else. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Martinez was a field sergeant for APS, meaning he responded to all types of incidents across the district.
They couldn't believe it. They didn't have any questions. There was no noise, just a blank look of disbelief and thinking, Chief, you're wrong.
He dedicated his life to serve and protect others.
I walked in the office. I thought I'd hold my composure today. But what happened was I walked in our office. There were flowers in this box. Proud to use it, dear. Thank you for being here. And remember Marty Martinez. He's a good guy.
Ryan Laughlin joins us tonight. And Ryan, you spoke to a woman who lost both of her parents in that crash.
Yes, Susan and John Montoya's daughter now lives out of state, and we spoke with her today, and she says her parents, who are both educators, made a lasting impact on those they came in contact with.
It took you no time at all from getting to know them to getting to love them.
Stacy Francis says her parents, Susan and John Montoya, were kind, caring, and compassionate, but also adventurous.
They just went skydiving a few years ago for Susan's birthday, and they just love to live life.
Francis says she and her kids were at Monster Jam in Kansas City, where they live, when she got a call from her brother.
And then had to hold myself together and kind of keep myself calm in front of the kids because I wanted them to be able to enjoy that experience.
She told her kids their grandparents had died in a hot air balloon crash. Susan was an assistant principal at Georgia O'Keeffe. John worked with kids with special needs at Sandia High School, and his kindness was profound.
He really passed that on to me and to my brother and even on to my kids, and that's something that is going to live on from him through us, is that sense of kindness, and just there's joy in every situation and there's peace in every situation, and you just have to look a little bit for it and it's there.
She says she is finding peace knowing Susan and John were with each other, having adventures until the end. And we spoke with Stacy today. She says her boss told her not to come to work, but she said she got her keep going attitude from her dad. Tessa?
So this is the North Valley Senior Center. It's really the hub of social life for a lot of people in the North Valley.
Melanie Tidman started coming here 5 years ago.
The beautiful thing about the senior centers in our city is they help so many people with so many things.
But Albuquerque's North Valley is missing a little of its beauty, as evident from the sign in front of St. Therese.
This is a huge loss for us.
This room now feels extra empty. Because the woman instructing this dance class will not teach again.
The draw is that Mary was the draw.
Tidman recalls when she first met Mary Martinez.
I've always loved to dance, but I'd never done Zumba.
Martinez volunteered teaching Zumba dance classes, and while it was fun, it wasn't just for fun.
She was that kind of motivator. I would venture to say that there are a lot of women in Albuquerque today that may not even be alive. Their health may have deteriorated to the point where they may not even be here without the influence of Mary Martinez.
She says she helped hundreds of women drastically improve their health, lose weight, and Martinez remembered every one of her students.
That was her passion. And to me, that service, that heart of service, is what epitomizes Albuquerque.
Tidman says she hasn't danced since last weekend.
I'm having a hard time with that. I know I will go because she would want me to, but I'm having a hard time with it.
The North Valley Senior Center has no other instructor.
You know, once you've had somebody like Mary, a friend, and an excellent teacher, it's really difficult to think about going somewhere else, but I know I will.
But Tidman and Martinez's closest students say they'll keep going.
I also promised some of the ladies that I'd find a class for us, because we've got to keep moving. Mary would not be happy if we just let our health go and didn't keep going. That's what she's instilled in us.
Because the dance goes on.
And the impact she's made on our lives, it can never be measured.
Ryan Laughlin, KOB4.
Just like everybody else, I was praying that it wasn't them.
There'll be a hole in our hearts with them not being here.
I know that he didn't want to let her go by herself.
Manuel, Marcus, and their Uncle Manny will never forget June 26th.
I found out there was an accident when I was getting a haircut that day.
Because on that day, Martin and Mary Martinez died in the deadliest hot air balloon crash in New Mexico's history. Marcus is Manuel's older brother. Mary and Martin are their parents.
They loved us very much. Yeah.
He remembers last Saturday. He did not know his parents were taking a hot air balloon ride, but soon found out.
I was seeing pictures online, and I was praying that it wasn't them, and because of a certain photo that was out, I knew, even though I was praying it wasn't them, I knew it was my mother because there was a photo of her feet, and I knew it was her because I know the type of spandex pants that she wears for Zumba. She was always a very colorful person, like to express herself like that, and I knew it was her shoes. So, I mean, deep down, I was hoping it wasn't them, but I already knew from photos that surfaced that it was them.
Today's social media-driven world is adding to their pain.
Certain people thought it would be okay to go live on Facebook, not just once, but a total of 3 times, and actually have footage of, be it the balloon actually crashing and disconnecting and falling to the ground, and then thought it was an okay idea to go up to the gondola after it was crashed and get video footage of what we found out was our deceased parents inside of the basket. We're very disgusted.
But now they want the world to know about the impact their parents had on our community.
How did they meet? I don't know if you know that story.
I know that story. So my sister Mary worked at Godfather's Pizza down in the valley, and Marty was a police officer, and Mary got robbed one night, and Marty happened to be one of the responding officers.
Manny, Mary's brother, says that was in 1983.
It was like her knight in shining armor came to her and, comforted her, and it's a fairy tale story,
Soon after, they got married and grew their family.
One thing my mom and dad always have said that, don't focus on the money, focus on your family. The money's always going to be there. Family's, not always going to be there. Spend the time with them while you can.
When Martin got out of the Army, he joined APD. And after 16 years protecting the community, retirement wasn't for him. And he went back to work as an officer for Albuquerque Public Schools. Wednesday was his last radio call, and his sons were there. And Marcus is carrying on Martin's law enforcement legacy, currently working for APD.
When it came to law enforcement, I think he would want, all cops to stay strong.
But it was Mary's community that led them to the balloon ride.
She offered it to my mom as like a thank you gift, for everything that she's done.
Susan Montoya, an assistant principal at an APS school, had been gifted a hot air balloon ride for 4. And they knew each other from Mary's Zumba dance classes.
And so when Mary told me that she was going to go up, she said, I've always wanted to ever since I was a little girl. She wanted to go up in a hot air balloon. And they asked me, because I've been up, and they asked me if it was safe, and I told them when I went up it was safe. And I was surprised Marty went.
Why?
Her dad was very homebody. He liked to play on his iPad and hang out with the dogs at home.
But the ladies wanted to go, and they took the guys along with. And in the end, their sons are glad they did.
One thought with me is, I just think that my mother was probably terrified, and I'm grateful my dad was there being the cool-headed guy that he was, just probably telling her it's gonna be all right, holding her tight.
They will be missed in big and small ways.
I know I'm gonna miss my mom sending me little texts out of nowhere saying, hey, my babe, just so you know, we got this going on if you want to come, or, just saying that I love you.
This North Valley couple will no longer serve, protect, or volunteer to help others, but they will continue to make an impact on our community through the people they've helped.
The story of them, being together and finishing this life together, it couldn't have I mean, that's how you would want it to end with your loved one, you know?
There was a lot of police in the North Valley, but they were there to show support for a fellow officer and his wife who died in last month's deadly hot air balloon crash.
It's hard not to cry.
Martin and Mary Martinez were laid to rest together.
We were still real tight as a family.
Donnie Sanchez is Mary Martinez's cousin.
She was active in her church, active in her community. She was loved by all.
Around a couple hundred people were at the Mass, including Mary and Martin's sons.
I know I'm gonna miss my mom sending me little texts out of nowhere saying, "Hey, my babe, just so you know, we got this going on if you want to come," or, you know, just saying that I love you.
We heard from Marcus and Manuel Martinez a little more than a week ago. Marcus is following in his father's footsteps and is an officer with APD. And Manuel says his dad would want the community to support police.
When it came to law enforcement, I mean, I think he would want, you know, all cops to stay strong.
Police and other loved ones were there to pray, support, and to grieve.
Just very good people, straight up, great pillars of the community.
A tragedy the likes of which our state has never seen. Ryan Laughlin, KOB4.
Passengers are not conscious of breathing.
Say what?
The passengers.
All four passengers are prone. High probability of mortality.
The shock and the grief of what happened in late June here in Albuquerque is now surrounded by questions and concerns. 4 friends went up in a hot air balloon. One of them had gotten the ride as a gift. And just minutes in, that balloon crashed. Everybody in the basket died, including the local pilot. And now his toxicology report shows he had hard drugs in his system during that deadly crash. Ryan, of course, confirmed the details of that report yesterday, but now people obviously and naturally want to know if there's any way to indicate if those drugs caused the crash. Can we know that yet?
Well, it's way too soon to say for sure. Toxicology reports are tricky because it's a piece to a puzzle, right? But everybody sort of breaks down what we put into our body differently. So this information will create waves, and it could make changes in how ballooning is regulated in our state and beyond.
How many vehicles were involved?
I don't know. It's a balloon. It just hit the electric pole, and they fell. The basket fell.
I saw it coming down real fast. It had no air at all, and it was just coming real fast. And I thought, oh my God, they're going to be killed.
Dozens called 911 on that June morning.
Oh my God! Oh my God! It's blowing like that.
Okay, which one
power line.
And now we are learning more about the pilot, Nicholas Molesky, an experienced balloonist who, at the time of the crash, had drugs in his system. A Federal Aviation Administration toxicology report that we independently authenticated shows levels of THC found in marijuana in his blood and urine, cocaine in his blood and urine, and cocaethylene, a mixture that occurs with cocaine and alcohol, was only found in his urine, not blood. A doctor and toxicologist we spoke with says these results show Molesky utilized it relatively recently, but not right before the accident. The tox report also tested negative for ethanol or alcohol, but the toxicologist we spoke with says the results are more consistent with partying the night before. Now, the doctor I spoke with says it's unusual to test for cocaine specifically. They did that in this case. Now, usually they test for metabolites that come from cocaine, and that can last in someone's system for up to 3 days. Molesky had both in his system. However, this toxicologist says these results do not say whether or not Molesky was impaired or not, or to what level. And the NTSB has not released its final report on the cause of this deadly crash.
So Ryan, you mentioned, a potential push for tougher regulations for balloon pilots. Do we have any idea of what those could look like if they happen?
Well, we have an idea, but only from the past, because hot air balloons are called lighter than aircraft and have less rules to follow from the FAA than, say, airplanes or helicopters. And after the deadliest American balloon crash in history happened in Texas in 2016, the pilot was found to be under the influence, and there were louder calls for tougher regulations. Tonight on the Night Beat, we're going to dig more into that.
It makes me both sad and furious.
David Tanzer is a longtime pilot and hot air balloon safety advocate.
I don't want to see the sport go away, and I think the sport is in danger right now for many reasons.
He lives in Vermont, but has flown in our balloon fiesta. And after learning of New Mexico's deadliest hot air balloon crash, he made a records request from the FAA for pilot Nicholas Molesky's toxicology report.
It is just utterly avoidable. This was utterly, totally, and completely avoidable.
The report shows Molesky had cocaine and marijuana in his system. And while the NTSB has not yet said if the drugs Molesky tested for contributed to the crash, Tanzer says he's seen this before.
And determine the probable cause of that, of the Laughlin accident, which was that the pilot's judgment was severely impaired due to drug use.
Lockhart, Texas, 2016. 16 people died in the deadliest hot air balloon crash in American history.
Here we have another, essentially the same situation of a pilot who was substantially and significantly abusing drugs while flying a balloon and killed, in this case, 4 innocent people.
Tanzer says that prompted calls for 2 things. The first, medical checks for ballooning pilots. They're required for airplane and helicopter pilots, but not for balloonists. Molesky had a medical certificate, healthy enough to fly by FAA standards at last check in July 2020. But the second is LOAs, or a letter of authorization, which is a set of rules for commercial operators to abide by under the FAA, weather guidelines, and more rules for pilots.
They're required to have a mandatory drug testing program for their operations staff, including their pilots.
Tanzer says the FAA should have put more regulations in place after the Texas crash, and now calls for tougher rules will return.
I don't like to see people unnecessarily killed or injured.
Ryan Laughlin, KOB4. Well, Tommy, this is a wrongful death lawsuit ultimately seeking financial damages. The family will need to prove the actions of pilot Nicholas Molesky and the pilot's employer were to blame for this deadly crash.
It was just flying above us and it exploded.
I said to him after there was a balloon. They hit the electric line and they fell.
3 months after the fatal crash, a newly filed wrongful death lawsuit filed on behalf of Martinez's oldest sons, who claim there was negligence that led to their father's death. The defendants are Nicholas Molesky and Hot Air Balloonatics, the company he flew for. The lawsuit points to the recently released toxicology report that shows Molesky had cocaine and marijuana in his system. It also says Hot Air Balloonatics failed in hiring, training, and supervising Molesky, which amounts to negligence. While the NTSB has not ruled on the cause of the crash, the lawsuit points to laws that say no person shall operate an aircraft in a careless or reckless manner as to endanger the life of another. They are seeking financial damages for the loss of Martinez, and they aren't the only ones reacting to the toxicology report.
I don't like to see people unnecessarily killed or injured.
Balloon pilot David Tanzer told us earlier this week he'd like to see the FAA increase regulations and require drug testing for balloon pilots, and he points to the June crash as another reason why.
It makes me both sad and furious.
The Martinez family, their attorney, and Molesky's representative did not want to comment today, and the lawsuit does not specify how much money they're seeking in damages. Tommy?